to Nasty Knuckles, the Hockey Outlaws podcast, with your hosts, Derek Nasty Settlemyre and former Philadelphia Flyer enforcer, Riley Cote, as they go behind the scenes with your favorite NHL players. Time to face off.
All right, welcome back. What's happening, Nasty?
What's up, Rigor? Yeah, just first of all, we need to call Joey Mullen and get one of those neck braces for you.
Yeah,
Holy
the neck
cow!
is stiff.
A little stiff for audience here. You're 30 feet from the house.
Oh my god!
Go to make a left turn, just get cranked. I don't know how I didn't hear it.
I don't know how you didn't either.
But
it's quite the impact, Nasty. As you saw.
When your man bun gets knocked out,
Oh, man bun.
that thing was
Completely
gone.
disheveled.
Literally
Hair
fell
tie
off. You know you get hit
on the
hard.
dash.
Get just to tell a quick story. You're pulling in, taking a left.
Yeah.
Woman runs you. Her
Yep.
car is total.
Complete stop, blinker on.
Every one of her airbags are like out.
Yeah.
Her car's totaled. And
Total. And not only was she not paying attention, she was definitely speeding.
God. Oh yeah.
Completely crushed me.
Crazy,
But,
but-
I'm surprised. Surprised. I don't really have any feeling of it, but her too.
She's
the
got it.
airbags deployed and everything. You got smoked for sure in the face by that.
Well,
thing.
she obviously was looking down on her phone or something.
definitely.
But anyway, glad you're okay.
yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
a great start to the morning.
It was not. But
Before the pod.
we battled through the
You're a
adversity.
tough guy. That's the hardest you've been hit in a while.
Oh, that's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth.
For
Left
sure.
it unscathed, and just dealing up with the remnants of having my car being towed and an insurance claim
Again.
now. Obviously, my God.
This car,
Unnecessary.
I think we need to
It's
get
got a
you
bad
a car.
omen. Yeah, we
I
gotta,
think
I think it's time. So
But how was Christmas?
Christmas was great.
Yep.
Yeah, nice and relaxing. Spent some time with the girls. Got two new bunnies around the house now, Nasty.
I did see that. Wow.
Got the girls' line head bunnies. If
Oh.
anybody doesn't know, these things are the fluffiest little things I've ever seen.
I saw them, and when I did, I wasn't sure what the thing was.
I know.
And you showed me the picture,
But the girls are loving them. Try to limit the plastic around the house this year and the amount of toys, and
yeah,
try and get them to take care of something, a living organism. So
I'm a little worried.
rabbits.
I'm a little worried right now for the Rabsies.
Yeah.
But
It's been pretty good.
I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good little experiment so far.
you just make sure you're supervising.
Always. Nice, you know that.
I know.
But other than that, how about you?
Good. Yeah, good. Elvie made out like a bandit, of course.
Sure he did.
Got a lot of things he didn't really need.
Of course. That's the way it goes.
But it is what it is. No, he had a good Christmas. Daughters, Peyton and Bryce, came over. They don't come. I think they're, as Elvis would say, they're allergic to coming over the bridge because they don't come enough anymore. But they've both got their own lives and they're
of
busy,
course.
busy. And apparently there's no condoms in Pennsylvania because both of my daughters are expecting.
Congrats, old
Yeah,
Gramps.
thanks.
All
I
right,
appreciate it. And I'm
I
happy
like it.
for them both. And
Yeah.
it's a little. I don't know if I've really wrapped my head around the whole thing yet, but I'm definitely happy for them and Mike and Callum.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Congrats, Peyton and Bryce. I actually spent a summer living with you guys. So
Pepe.
Pepe.
That's
I'm not sure
fine.
how old they were at the time, but they were young, and
Yeah.
nice to see them.
They were
grow and
upset
evolve.
when you moved out because I can't cook and you were cooking every night. That was
night.
kind of the deal. You're living with us and you cooked them food that they never thought they would eat.
Yeah.
And boy, they
Pass
were
those
not
chicken
happy
tenders
with me.
and
They
mac
were
and
not
cheese.
happy when you moved out. They were not happy, but yeah. So it was a good Christmas. Pretty quiet after that.
Yeah. Heart rate still moderating. and
Just trying to
leveling
wrap
out.
my
Yeah.
head around the whole thing here.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
You'll be great grandfather.
Both boys.
There you go.
So that's good.
Get him on skates and throw him in the pipes.
yeah.
Follow Elvis.
Oh, jeez. We'll try to stay away from the pipes if we
I
can.
think it's in your DNA there, Nast.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Not mine.
Not yours. It's your pops.
Sudsy.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But, yeah.
Well, get into some hockey talk.
Yeah.
Christmas break. I think there's only 2 Flyers games since last pod.
Yeah.
Flyers dropped both of those games in Toronto and Carolina.
Yep. Yeah.
So not a whole lot of action there. obviously Flyers are struggling to find the wins. Carter Hart injured in Carolina game, but thank God it's
not serious.
Not serious.
He will not play tomorrow, but I think he'll be able to play Friday. They put him on the IR, and it goes back to the 23rd, I think, when the game was. So he'll be okay to play. Said he's feeling better, and he skated.
Yeah,
so
good.
That's good news because that's scary, have him hurt. I mean, anyone hurt. Obviously, we're dealing with all these injuries, but to see him get his head hit like that and his neck whipped back, it's never good. So glad he's doing okay.
Yep.
And should be fine.
Yep. And I wish him the best in his recovery. Again, thankful that it's nothing serious. Morgan Frost
playing well.
Maintaining his level of play, which is nice to see by the young guy. But obviously, he can't be the only one going. Obviously, there's other guys going, but some production there. And then thoughts on Tony and Travis Sanheim?
I think they've been playing well.
Yeah,
I really do. I think Tony's going to help anyone he plays with, basically. I think Provy's the same way, but I think Sandy's game's picked up a bit, since he started playing with Tony.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, seems to be a nice little experiment.
Yep.
At this point, I think it's just figuring out who's the best fit and finding some chemistry, maximizing those pairs. Obviously, on the front end as well as finding out who works best with each other there. So see how that goes in the new year. And then just talking about some international hockey,
World Championships.
World Championships. Talking about obviously the level of skill that's in hockey now, but there's a lot of rumblings around this Michigan move that seems to be becoming more and more prevalent in the game. You see it more and more. The skill level again of these players is insane. Not something that I would certainly ever be trying even in my heyday in junior hockey. But what are your thoughts on the level of skill first of all, and then that play specifically? We hear a lot of old school guys around. More North hockey, more of the striving to that, which I fully agree with.
Yes.
But it's not like you can't have both, right? I mean, behind the net, there's a pretty, it's the dead space back there to generate some offense behind the net. I mean, to me, it's on the defensive team to find ways to defend this because it's not going away.
No, I think you're going to see more of it.
Of course.
A couple weeks ago, my son plays Mike. And a kid tried it twice.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was able to get the puck up. He did not score, but I think I agree with what you're saying too about the North game going hard. But some of these guys don't play that way.
Yeah,
they're so skilled. And the other night in the sorry Canada lost. You guys are up in arm. Oh, they lost one game.
Yep.
But no, seriously, there was a play. I guess Bedard tried it, but it was kind of the play to make there, I thought. And he's a guy that can make that play. Maybe the rest of your guys, if you think they're not going hard and doing this or that, makes sense. But we all kind of know where the game is going. And the skill level on almost every kid now, just coming up. That's the shit they work on.
100%.
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it is a play. We've seen guys score goals that way. Now, I did tell my son to whack that kid right across his shin guards next time he tried it because I got that old school mentality too. I don't want to be scored on that way, but the truth of the matter is that's just a play now.
It is.
It is a legit play and
a dangerous one because it's hard to defend. I mean, as a goalie on the post,
it can't be the first
strong
thing
side
in your
post.
head.
I mean, it's like a wraparound, but a little more aggressive, right? I mean, now you have using the topper part of the net, but I mean, teams are gonna have to figure out a way to defend this. Back in the day, it was Gretzky setting up shot back there, making plays from behind the net,
right?
And now we're able to generate scoring chances from the back of the net. So teams are going to have to find a more creative way to defend this because, I know from the coaching side of things, I coach defense, with the Phantoms and I coach forwards, but we would never get defense to chase behind the net. You know what I mean? Or on the back side of them. So it's a tough one to defend. Maybe you got to break some sticks.
Yeah.
Maybe you really do have to flex a little bit there and lay down that line. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not that easy to do without staying staying out of the box and playing it legally. But it's not going away. These guys are highly skilled. Like you said, the 8 and 9-year-olds, kids, like all these young kids are practicing this, as you mentioned, at every level.
Right.
So the skill level, I mean, again, I think now it's coaching the time and place for this. And obviously you're not, preaching toe dragging at the blue lines.
Right.
But behind the net, I mean, there's limited things you can do with the puck, right? I mean, you set up, make a play out either side of the net. But if you can generate some offense, and then maybe having the philosophy of guys, if you're going to see Connor Bedard or whoever, Zegras, whoever your skill guy is, maybe making one of these plays, reverse Michigan's we're seeing.
Yeah.
And having guys crash
reverse,
the net because just like a wraparound play or a stuff play, there's going to be rebounds on those plays too. So there's still that that hard nose to the net type of mentality, considering that these pucks don't always go in the net. There's going to be a scrum there. So it's a new game. I mean, it's been like this for a while, but I love the creativity. And to me, it's on the defending teams. We can't hate on the offensive players doing this. It's a legitimate and honest chance to score. These guys are highly skilled. I mean, I bet you Connor Bedard scores 9 out of 10 on that play.
Probably does.
And some others highly skilled guys. But to me, it's just you have to figure out a way to defend this thing because it's going to happen more and more as the skill level continues to increase. But
it's funny because not only the Michigan, we've seen that reverse where you fake the Michigan and then a guy wraps around. That plays unbelievable. Whoever designed that the first time, that was genius to me. But that's happening. We saw Zegras flip it over the net to Sonny Milano last year, I believe. He bats it in. Like I've seen a couple times where a player will kind of try to throw it off the goalie's back.
That's smart.
And talking about Wayne Gretzky, I mean, I remember a ton of times where he would bank it off a goalie. He'd be behind the net, come out, and they're like, "Oh, that's luck." I don't think it was luck with Gretz. Like honestly, and he's not the only guy that's ever tried it. But you see guys trying for bad angles to hit a goalie.
Smart
in the
players.
because the way they're going down. But like you said, I mean, you got to figure out a way to defend this play because it's working a lot of the time. Now I realize Canada lost, and our buddy Obi was saying that, and I do agree with him. Like for me, Canada's usually they're going hard and all that stuff, but Bedard's not going to play a physical hockey game. He's going to be a really skilled. He is obviously the best, but in his age, but. It's just something like you said. You're gonna have to learn to defend somehow. Yeah,
these are situational, right? I mean, it's not like it's not like he was taking a perimeter approach for on an entry and try to Michigan. You know what I mean? Like it's it's a behind the net play that he had some space. To me, again, going back to the defending team. This is where you take away time and space. Like as a defending team, you're going to have to find a way to shut that down, make him make a play he's not going to make, maybe push him on his backhand, whatever that ends up being. But as soon as you give these guys that extra split second and play it safe on the strong side and weak side posts, the guy doesn't have to come to the front of the net to get a stick around. Right. That's it.
That's true.
Someone's going to have to put a stick on puck and close that down a little quicker. You're going to have to identify that. But we'll see where it goes. I mean, the skill level is insane as we're talking about. It's not going away. You're going to see these types of plays more and more at every level probably, not just the NHL. But, I like it, because I do love the creative part of hockey. Obviously that's why we all played hockey. Now the creativity is insane, and if guys have skills to do this, like it's just another tool in their toolbox and just another threat that you have to deal with, and it's all about scoring goals. So we can find creative ways to score goals. Saying all this without getting away from the meat and potatoes, obviously. I mean, these are highlight reel goals we're talking about, or attempts, but games are won with grunt work and the north play, the strong defensive play, and then playoffs are won obviously in a little different way. You're not going to be able to skill your way through playoffs, but nonetheless the skill level is through the roof. It is enjoyable to watch as long as we don't lose too much of the essence of it, I think. Which we all agree with, I think, here. So all right, Nast, episode 99 with our boy Mike Commodore, presented to you by Curaleaf. Welcome to Curaleaf, a medical marijuana dispensary. Whether you're a longtime patient or you're just getting acquainted to this incredible plant, Curaleaf of Pennsylvania is honored to guide you along your medical marijuana journey. Have questions? Google Curaleaf PA or stop by one of their 18 locations across the Commonwealth, or visit curaleaf.com/locations Did you get a cure leaf on, Nast?
I do.
Yeah, you look ultra relaxed today.
I am so relaxed.
Oh, I love to see that.
Yes.
All right, Nast, let's go.
Let's go.
Welcome back. I'm Riley Cote.
And I'm Derek Settlemyre. And this week we are very fortunate to have an absolute legend in my mind. National champion in North Dakota, Stanley Cup champion. You even won a double IHF World Championship with Team Canada. You do it all, man. Second round pick of the New Jersey Devils, Mr. Mike Commodore. What's up, brother?
What's up, fellas? I was very fortunate to have a lot of very good teammates throughout my career. I'd like to say it was all me, but it was definitely not all me. I didn't do a whole lot. I just shot the
Oh, man.
It was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Hey.
Your honesty.
Yeah, hey, it worked, man. Whatever it is, it worked.
Thank you very much. What's going on?
Yeah, man. Oh, man, we're just hanging and banging. Just follow you. Been following you on Twitter and everything. Love everything, man, you put out. It makes me laugh. We kind of want to touch on a little bit of the double IHF tournament going on now. I loved your tweet the other day about that hit. I'm not pulling for Canada. I'm American. But either way, I would say that's not a game, man. Like, if you want to give a guy a penalty for his hands coming up, but, like, to kick the kid out of the game, a little soft.
In full disclosure, I did also gamble on the game. So I was a little bit jaded. I needed Canada to win by 4 goals. I should have known better, because it always seems like in these tournaments, like, I should have, as soon as the game started, it was like 5 minutes in, I'm like, I am so stupid. Why did I not think about this for a second? Because it's like, it's the first game. You know, you're dealing with kids. They're going to be nervous. It's their first. I mean, yes, they played some preseason stuff, but like the first game is always a little bit choppy. I'm like, I am an idiot. They are not being checked by 4 goals. But regardless of, and I said it on Twitter, you know, and I was watching that game, and I'm like, look, I understand the IHF has a, you know, it's a little softer than the NHL, but even to those rules, like that wasn't even, and I would say the same thing if it was a Czech guy that did it. Like I don't come out of homework. Like that wasn't even a hard body check.
No.
Like his shoulder,
yeah,
he hit his shoulder and his hands like kind of followed through, but it was like brushed him. Anyway, like I said,
the visor cut him. Yeah, I think the visor cut him for sure on that play. But
cut him. And it was not, like you said, if you want to give him a 2-minute penalty, I guess, okay. But like 5 in a game, that was a joke. I felt bad for that kid. Like
I did too.
Yeah, like the poor kid, like just kind of goes in and, like I said, in my opinion, and I watched the replays a couple times. Yes, I was betting on the game, and yes, I did have a couple of cocktails. But I'm watching, I'm like, that's barely a body check. Even in like today's game, that's like, I didn't think. I felt bad for the kid. And then as soon as it went like review, I'm like, this kid is screwed. And then, but then I was kind of excited on the gambling side of it because they killed like 3.5, 4 minutes of the penalty. So I'm like, okay, you know, when you kill a 5-minute penalty, you get a little momentum. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, maybe this is going to be a good thing. And then it was not a good thing.
It went the other way.
It went the other way. In the last minute, they gave up 2 goals. I'm just like, oh, God, I am so screwed. Anyway.
That's great. I did not know that you had put something on that, but I still agreed with you anyway. And like you said, either way, you're like, come on, that's not you kicking a kid out of the game for that. Like, it wasn't even malicious. It wasn't even any intent, but just to finish a check. That's all it was.
Finishing his check is high. His hands might have finished a little high, I guess. Yeah. If you want to say that. Yeah.
I mean, the game has been softening, obviously, for some time. And where do you see this going? Because it seems like it's more and more it comes to situations like these where there's just like you just can't even wrap your head around these plays at all. Like, do you think that like they're really trying to eliminate full body contact? I mean, it seems so.
Women's rules.
Yeah,
hey, Connor.
Yeah, exactly.
Commie, women's rules.
I did have a couple of cocktails, and maybe I went a little far with the women's rules, but I think on the international stage, I really do think it. And look, none of us like seeing somebody get a headshot, and nobody likes seeing guys hurt. I'll be the first to say that 100%. But Like, I can see it, like, on the international in the next decade or so. Like, we're basically, and I don't have any kids, so I'll try and tie this all together. I don't have any kids, so I can't really speak for that. But, my buddies have kids, and I listen to them. And, body checking has now, because it used to be, like, back in the day, like Pee-wee or, however old that would be, 11, 12. Now that's backed up, I think, to, like, Phantom or maybe even Midget now. So I think it's a really good question. I mean, I would like to say, like I said, I don't like seeing anybody get hurt and headshots, and there you could take the body and be clean about it. Yeah. Where it's going, like, I mean, I could see a world, like, I hate to say it, but I could see a world where it's just, and I went a little aggressive on Twitter, but where it's basically just the women's rules, where we're just basically rubbing each other out along the boards, and there's no open ice hitting. I can't see a world where that happens. And I mean, this has been happening for how long now? A decade at least, I mean, and it's all kind of a trickle down from the NFL concussion thing and stuff like that. And I don't know. I mean, for me, I do think they're bang on. I mean, the hits from behind, I think those definitely have to go. That's how somebody, in my opinion, gets really hurt. But now you watch the game, and every once in a while, it's almost like guys are putting themselves, not all the time, but you'll see it's like, what the hell was that kid doing? You basically turn your back to the play when you know somebody's coming. The guy gets blasted from behind. He's okay. But then, the guy gets a penalty, and maybe he's trying to, I mean, I don't know. There's got to be better ways to draw penalties than taking a hit from behind. I mean, I would never do that. For sure. Christ, you get your head knocked off or right into the boards. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We were talking about earlier before we started going, and I go to a few games now. I live in Calgary, and I enjoy going to the games, and I like going as a fan. It's a good time and everything like that. But you do get games where it's like, you'll have games that are great, and there's high skill, and guys get heated up, and the game is awesome. There's no doubt about it. Then you do get games when, like, let's say the puck isn't going in the net, and maybe everything isn't as clean, but then there's not really any hitting, or one team's up by a bunch, and it's just kind of, you're watching the game, and it's like, man, somebody do something this thing. But
or give me another drink.
Or give me another drink. I need a different drink. If I had another hand, I'd have three.
Well,
hammer drinks.
Yeah. So you got a new thing going here. You're one of the hosts of new podcast, Clearing the Crease. Watched a couple of your episodes. Saw the real deal Timmy Peel on there with you guys.
Yeah, he was great. He was our first guest. Yeah, we just started. Like, I think we've recorded 4 episodes now. It's very, like, my only thing with it was Bodog kind of approached me, and Andrew Raycroft and James Cebulski. And my only thing, I'm like, you know what? I just want to, whatever we do, I want to keep it light. Like, I don't need to, I mean, I watch the games, but I watch them as a fan. I'm not going and, like, I'm not watching every game, and I'm not breaking every, nobody gives a shit about my, like, breaking down a game. Like, let's pick a couple topics and, like, let's have fun with it. We have a couple guests on and just kind of, more than anything, it's quick and light, which I kind of like. It's, maybe if there's something, a hot topic going on or whatever that we can talk about, we'll do that. But it's been good. It's been easy, actually.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, speak your mind a little bit, shoot the shit.
I did learn a lesson.
To do here.
It's just bullshit. I did learn a lesson, though.
Oh,
I was in Scottsdale. Oh, God damn it. I was at Scottsdale.
Bottle Blonde?
I didn't
at
quite
Bottle Blonde?
I was in the vicinity. I was around that area. Yeah. And I knew I had to record at 5 o'clock. And anyways, long story short, James Neal was in town for this wedding. James was supposed to leave, and James and I are kind of boys from the golf course and played against him and stuff like that. And James decides he's just going to stay the week, which is great. I love James, but when James decides to spend the week, I'm like, oh my God, my cocktail level just went from, like, I'm going to take the week off and get shit done to, like, now I'm playing, it is full bore for the entire week. But I knew I had to do this recording, and I'm like, okay, it's Sunday, and I'm like, look, we can go out for a little bit if you want, watch a little bit of football, and have, like, kind of an American football Sunday a little bit. But I do have to record this podcast at 5 o'clock. He's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, seriously, I have to be on at 5 o'clock. Anyways, at the end of the day, it's my fault. But it comes time to record this podcast, and I am shit-faced, out of my mind. I get the guest on, Scott Gomez comes on, whom I played with in Jersey. Anyways, long story short, I learned a valuable lesson. So went through this podcast, and the next day I'm like, I don't remember one word that I said. Like, this is horrifying. And part of the deal is that I have to, like, you know, you have to, like, share stuff, right? Share it on Instagram and, you know, to get some impressions or whatever like that. And I was so horrified, I just would click, like, share or collaborator on a post or whatever. I just click it and then close the app. I'm like, I don't even want to listen to myself. This is embarrassing. I think I called the Oilers an American League team. And so I learned a lesson, though. Never again am I doing a Scottsdale Sunday and recording a podcast.
Cocktail Sunday.
No,
man.
Overserved. Yeah, he's
got overserved.
Yeah.
It wasn't your fault. You're overserved. That's what my dad always tells me. I was overserved.
Sounds like your old man to get along just fine.
Yeah, I think you would, actually. So getting back to you a little bit, you had an interesting path, like from playing junior in your hometown there and getting into college. I remember reading about that. Like how did that go for you? Like, as far as you're playing, like, you weren't playing major junior, right? You were playing in your hometown.
Yeah.
Schools started to come see you.
Yeah. So it was completely by accident. I didn't even really have a plan. Like, I mean, I played hockey. Like, I was never like, I mean, I was all right. Don't get me wrong, but by no stretch when I was younger was I like the best player on the ice or anything like that. And I just liked playing. I mean, Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, it's colder than hell. And so that was kind of what you did. And I liked playing and I liked competing. And I ended up getting drafted by the Tacoma Rockets in the WHL back in the day. And then they moved to Kelowna. So I ended up going to camp there. Like, when I was 16, I was kind of on the bubble. And then when I was 17 years old, my grade 12 year, I was on the team and I wanted to stay. You know, and I'd gone to watch, like, back in the day, you know, I'd go watch, like, the Red Deer Rebels and go to Swift Currents. And my parents are from Saskatchewan, so we go watch some games. And so I'm like, yeah, that would be really cool to play in the dub or whatever. And so that was my plan. But my parents were both educators. My dad was a speech pathologist. My mother was a math teacher and a high school principal. She was my high school principal, actually. Oh, wow. So my mother, now it's different now, but my mother back in the day would get, like, you know, I don't want to say horror stories, but, like, here's a great example. Ray Whitney, who is from Fort Saskatchewan. He's my boy. He's older than I am, but, you know, Ray went and played for the Spokane Chiefs, and he would come back and, like, and he went to school and everything, but, like, his credits didn't transfer. So my mom, if you ever have Ray on, ask him about Mrs. Commodore. He might blow a fucking gasket. So my mom ended up, like, failing him when he came back to Fort Saskatchewan, because she looked at the curriculum and she's like, Ray, like, you know, this stuff you're doing in grade 12 in Spokane is what we do in grade 10 or 11 here. Like, I can't graduate you. So I think back in the day, Ray and his parents would have been really pissed at my mom. Now it doesn't matter. Everything's all good. But so she would get, like, the horror, or guys, like, not going to class. And so they just wanted me to graduate from high school. So my mother was like, you're not going to stay there and play. You're coming back. If you're good enough to make the Kelowna Rockets, you should be good enough to make the Fort Saskatchewan Traders in the Alberta League. So finish high school, then do whatever you want. So that was my plan. I'm like, okay, so play for the Traders, finish high school, and then I was going to go play in Kelowna. And long story short, this was like a month into the season, playing for the Traders. And I still remember to this day, I don't know a fucking thing about college hockey. Like, I couldn't name one team. I'd never seen a game. I don't know what the NCAA is. I have absolutely no clue. And I'm sitting down after practice in the room, and our head coach comes in, Doug Shum, and he's like, hey, Mike, he's like, BU's upstairs. They want to talk to you. You need to get upstairs right now. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, BU? What the fuck is BU? I have no clue. So I go upstairs, and there's a guy sitting there, and I sit down. He's like, hey, Mike, nice to meet you. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, well, yeah, you ever think about playing college hockey? I'm like, yeah, I think about playing college hockey all the time. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I still don't. I have no clue what BU is. So then he hands me, like, one of the little programs or whatever. So I look at it and I'm like, oh, BU, Boston University. I'm like, oh, okay. And so anyways, just kind of bullshit my way through the little meeting. There's, 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, we're interested. How are your grades? I'm like, well, my mom's the principal, so I'm always at school. I'm like, my grades are pretty good, I think. I'm like the B student. He's like, okay, that's good. And anyways, once one school comes, it seems like, at least in my experience, like more came. So met with a few other teams, and then North Dakota came. And so they come in and they're like, hey, look, we'd like to have you on a fly down. I'm like, what's that? They're like, well, we fly you in and you watch a weekend series and then you come home. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, let me ask my parents and see when they're free. They're like, no, your parents aren't coming. It's just you. I'm like, I got a trip, like by myself. They're like, yeah. And so I'm all in. I'm 17 years old. Yeah. I go, that sounds great. I can get out of the house. So fly down to North Dakota, and North Dakota was, they have a new rink now, and the new rink's amazing. But back then it was like a smaller barn. It was like 6,500 people maybe. And so I went to the game with zero expectations, went to the weekend series, and the place was packed. And, it's I'm 17 years old. It's university. It seemed like half of the building was girls. And to me, it seemed like,
yeah.
Everybody's hot, and everybody came to the game. The game was great. People are fired up. They're crushing beers. And I'm like, fuck the WHL.
I want some of this.
I'm coming here. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to school. So that's how I ended up. A couple days later, they offered me like a little bit of a scholarship. And I'm like, yeah, I never really thought about, professional hockey. To me, I went to college. I'm like, I get to play for a few more years and get an education of some kind, whatever I decide to do or whatever. And that was why I ended up going to college. And, I've thought about it. It's actually, you guys are in Philly. My head coach, the same guy who, my head coach of the Traders, I ran into him like a couple years later. This is back in the day. And he's like, I was at North Dakota at the time. He's like, are you enjoying North Dakota? I go, yeah, no, it's great. Our team's good. I'm having a good time. Yeah, for sure. And I think I had been drafted at that point. I was going into my last year, what ended up being my last year at North Dakota. And he's like, hey, he goes, you know what? He's like, if you would have went to Major Junior, I think you would have been a first round pick of the Flyers. Now, I don't know if any of this is true at all.
Wow.
I have no clue, but he had some buddies in the Flyers organization. And I always remembered that. So like, I had a great time at college. Don't get me wrong. I mean, back then, I think I was looked at when I went there as, well, what's he going to college for, right? There's no fighting and, is he soft or whatever? I think that was kind of a conversation point, but he did tell, I'll never forget that. He was like, if you would have went to Major Junior and if everything would have went well, he's like, the Flyers were going to take you real early. I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, man.
Yeah, maybe I should have went to Major Junior.
Yeah, right? You signed the big ticket.
Oh, man.
But you were able to carry over your physical brand from the AJ into college, right? I mean, you're still getting 150 plus PIMs a year. Obviously there's no fighting, but, you're obviously a physical guy.
Yeah. Like I tried to that was actually probably the major reason why I ended up leaving was I would try and get into, and I wasn't the toughest guy in the world, but I also realized I'm 6'4", 225 pounds. And, I'm not an offensive guy. Like I do need to show that. And I enjoyed being like physical, taking the body and stuff like that. So I tried to get in you could get in one fight a year there, and then you would only get suspended one game. So every year I tried to just get in one. If you got into it was like a 3-game suspension. So I'm like, once a year I should try, and it'll be good for me because if I do well, I'll get a little bit more space out here.
Right.
That wasn't great with the ball. Yeah, a little street cred. So my first year I ended up getting in. The first year wasn't even really a fight. I ended up kind of banging some guy's head off the ice from St. Cloud, but they gave me a fighting major. And then my second year, my draft year, I ended up getting into it with a guy from Wisconsin. I did well for sure. And that would kind of boosted me a little bit too. But it actually ended up, there was actually a major, I wanted to go back. I was lucky enough where we won the national championship my third year. But I wanted to go back for my fourth year. I'm like, everybody's coming back. We were going to be really good again. So I'm like, I wanted to come back, but it got to the point where like I was getting penalties. It was like the guy from Team Canada the other night. Like I would get I was getting penalties for like, honest to God, clean,
touching
just like Yeah, just like not even like a hard hit. It was for sure like a roughing penalty or boarding or something like that. So it got to the point where I'm like, I think if I'm gonna try and do something in hockey, it's probably time for me to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just too strong, too powerful.
Too strong. I couldn't. I was the weakest guy in the weight room, but for some reason, when I got my speed going, I catch guys with their heads down. But yeah, it was a great time. I mean, I can't say enough good things about North Dakota. I had a hell of a time. You know, we were the year that I got there. So they ended up. I committed in the spring of 1997, and the first college game that I watched was North Dakota. Well, on TV. They had North Dakota was playing, I think they might have been playing BU in the final. Anyways, North Dakota ended up winning the national title in 1997. And then, so I'm watching this game like, wow, I'm like, we should have a pretty good team here. I don't think there's a whole lot of people like leaving. And so I'm like, you know, ice time is going to be a challenge for sure. And it definitely was my first year. Like I dressed for almost every game, but like we had a really good team and I was very young. And then I was sitting there watching TV, so this would have been like maybe a week after the final. So we're in the spring, 1997, and I was just kind of flipping through the TV, and I flipped through it, get to like CNN or Fox or something like that, news channel, and it's like an aerial shot of a downtown of a city. It's on fire, and it's flooded. And I remember thinking, I'm like, oh man, that would suck to live there. Right after that goes through my head in the bottom left-hand corner, Grand Forks, North Dakota. Holy shit. I'm like, I'm moving there in 3 months.
Fuck am I going?
So they had you're from Winnipeg, they had like the 100-year flood and North Dakota. So when I got there, it was like, there was one bar. Everything else was like, I mean, it was made, like the university was fine because it was far enough away from the river, but like the city was destroyed. And like I said, there was like, I mean, by the time I left, you know, it had got going again. But yeah, it was my first year in college. I was like, oh, dude, we were like college parties in basements. And it's just like, man, somebody's going to get sick in here. This is fucking disgusting.
It's going to get sick in here.
Maybe it built character. I don't know. It all worked.
Yeah,
I'm sure it did.
Oh, man. That's great. So you're talking about you get drafted in the second round by New Jersey. I had a question about working under Lou Lamoriello. Like everybody knows Lou, you know, he's a strict guy. So when you get there, do you get called in by Lou and he lays rules down, or do you just learn as you go?
You learn as you go. There was never like called in, but it would like, so back then it was like, you know, training camp starts like middle of September. But in New Jersey, unless you were like, you know, a veteran guy with, you know, unless you're Scott Stevens or Ken Danico, camp starts August 1st. We got a 6-week training camp of doing like 2 a day. So I decided to sign in July. I'm like, they're like, yeah, you know, you don't, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you don't have to come, but
but
if you're not there, good luck making any team in this organization if you don't come. So it showed up there in like August 1st, you know, heard all the stories about Lou. He just kind of moseyed around every once in a while. Everybody, I was amazed, especially looking back now, like guys were horrified of Lou Lamoriello, like legitimately scared of him.
Scared.
Like, wow. And, you know, so that was the summer of 2000. New Jersey had just won the Stanley Cup. And my workout group I was in with, this didn't make a whole lot of sense. I didn't really agree with this. We come to camp, and so to be basically like all the guys in the organization, the guys that played for the Albany River Rats and in the East Coast League, and some draft picks that were turning pro, like myself. And they we're staying in the Turtlebrook Inn across the street, and dumb that was too.
Turtlebrook.
Oh my God, literally a motel. Like if you wanted to go out, you had to jump off the balcony to go out because Lou had like spies all over the hotel. If you
I heard that.
Oh yeah, you'd have to like legitimately. I would, if, you know, it was the weekend and yeah, we're gonna go out and have a beer or whatever. I would back my truck up, so it was a 2-level hotel, and you'd have a balcony out the side. The only way in or out was like there was the fire alarm on the back door or walking by the front desk. if you walk by the front desk, you might as well call Lou and be like, hey,
yes,
I'm going for beers. You might as well just let him know. So I would back my truck up to the balcony, and then in order to get out, we would jump over the balcony onto the back of my truck, and then we would go wherever we wanted. We didn't have to sneak out.
Was Gomer with you? Was Gomer with you when this happened? Scotty Gomez?
Yeah.
He told me this story. Gomer told me that. He told me you guys used to jump onto a truck. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, we'd have to jump on the truck to like go out and have a beer. Otherwise, Lou knew everything. But it was amazing to me, like my workout group, they split us in like 2 groups, which was weird for me. So I'm like, a second round pick is definitely like a higher draft pick. And then they would they'd say there was 50 guys there. They'd have, 40 guys all working out together with the New Jersey strength coach, like the guy that's actually the strength coach. And then they would have another group, and I was in that other group. So it was me, Scott Gomez, who just won the Rookie of the Year and a Stanley Cup. Colin White was there for the entire thing.
Oh, wow.
We had like Pierre Dagenet, and it was like a group of us that worked out with Vladdy Bure, Pavel Bure's dad. So they like split us up, which I get back to the hotel, and so our group was like, oh yeah, you guys are the hot prospects. So I would come back to the hotel, and these guys that I'm hanging out with, like Gomez and White, they had places in Jersey. I was at the hotel. I get back to the hotel, and these guys at first were like ripping on me, because they're like, oh, this, the special ones here, this and that. And I'm like, hey, what do you want me to do? I'm like, I'm like, I'm not making the fucking rules here. I'm like, I like hanging out with you guys. So Lou, I guess I kind of got sidetracked a little bit. It was amazing, like how scared people were of Lou. I'm not sitting here questioning Lou. Lou's been very successful. He's done this forever. But he did do some things where, like, I'm just like, I don't really get what the game plan is here. But guys were horrified of him. Like, I think actually, kind of a funny story. So that was my first summer. And then I was up and down my first year. And then my second year, no, it was that year, sorry. So the next year, New Jersey ended up going to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they lost to Ray Bourque in Colorado in 2001. I'm a black ace, so there's like 10 of us that are black aces. And like now I hear stories about guys being black aces. They're with the team. We're going golfing. I'm like, that was not my experience as a fucking black ace. There was like 10 of us, and we're at the Turtlebrook Inn. And Lou's like, yeah, you guys are part of the team. I'm like, yeah, part of the team, my ass. So let's say if the team practices at like 11 o'clock, he would make sure that the 10 of us, we would just skate on our own, and we'd have like, one of the Albany coaches or something skating us. And we were packed up, and he wanted us out of the arena before any of the like players, New Jersey guys showed up. I'm like, part of the team. I'm like, this is bullshit. It looks like we're lepers or something. Kicking But I think the last time Lou Lamoriello, unless he's been on the ice in the last 20 years, we end up, I think New Jersey had just won. They were going on the road for like, I think they might have been playing Carolina or something like that. And so they were on the road. It was like a game 7, I think, or something like that. And so, we've been sitting there for 6 weeks. We've been practicing every day, like legitimately there was not a day off. And these skates were fucking hard. There was nobody on the ice. So it was like, there was no rest, and it was hard work. And we're like getting at each other's throats now, like guys are getting pissed off. And so the team goes on the road. And so they actually gave us a day off. And so I remember calling Bobby Carpenter. I'm like, hey, Bob, I'm like, we got a day off here. I'm like, we had a couple of French guys. And they're like, so I asked Bob, I'm like, Bob, do you mind if we go to Montreal? A couple of these guys want to go to Montreal. Like, we'll be back in a couple of days. He's like, yeah, shit, go ahead. I would if I were you. I'm like, okay, perfect. So I'm like, fellas, we can go to Montreal. Everybody is fired up. We jump in the cars, drive up to Montreal, go out for a night. We're supposed to be there for 2 nights. So we go out for a night. I think Carolina or Jersey ended up winning the game or whatever it was that night, but we're supposed to have a day off. 6 in the morning, my cell phone is ringing and ringing. And I'm like, what the fuck? We were out all night. I'm like, it's Bob Carpenter. I'm like, yeah, Bob, what's up? He's like, where the fuck are you? I go, well, I'm in Montreal. He's like, what are you doing there? I go, what do you mean, what am I doing here? I just called you 24 hours ago and asked. He goes, hey, Lou heard you guys are out of town. You guys are in deep trouble. You got to get back here now. Are you fucking kidding me? He's like, you got to get back here right now. I'm like, holy fuck. So I'm calling all the guys. I get picked up on the side of the road. We drive like 95 miles an hour. We went from Montreal to Jersey. We must have set some kind of speed record. Get in there, straight to a meeting with Lou. Lou's sitting in there just staring at us. I'm like, everybody is nervous. I'm like, oh. He's like, what were you guys doing? I'm like, well, we went, and I didn't want to bury Bob. And, you know, Bob threw us under the bus. He told us to go, but I didn't want to like bury. I'm like, well, you know, Lou, we thought it'd be, you know, you guys were on the road and we had a day off. So we just went up to Montreal. You know, a couple guys are from there. He's like, we got practice. Go put your shit on. So we go put our shit on. Lou Lamoriello comes out, puts skates on. Lou, I mean, Lou's what, 8 years old now? Put skates on. He's got the old leather skates with the blade holders are clear. I've never seen that before. Like, oh my God. So he's out. He can't really skate. He's standing on the ice, and we had a fucking practice where it was like he two-handed me. We weren't throwing punches, but like one of the drills was like drop your gloves, and was basically like wrestling match and throw the guy to the ground. It was like the most. I'm like, this is, and now guys are right. We're all horrified of Lou. He's screaming at us. I could tell he does not like me. He's waiting for me to take like one half-ass stride, and he's going to start screaming at me. Sure shit, I do. He flashes me. He's like, pick up that pace. I'm like, holy fuck. Anyway, I guarantee that's got to be. Oh, he was intimidating. There is no question about it. That little fucker was intimidating.
I had a couple of guys that I worked with. One guy worked with me, and then he went to Jersey. And it was so funny because we were playing at the time. I was with the Phantoms, and we were playing Albany in the old building in the Continental Airlines Arena or whatever it was called. And this kid that worked for me that I'd known for years, he's filling water bottles up before the game, and I go out and I'm like, Louie, and I give him a hug, and he's like looking down at the bottle. He's like kind of nudges me off, and he's filling the water bottles up, and I'm like, what's up, dude? He goes, nothing, but I'll come in the back and see. I'm like, what the fuck? Can you not look at me? He goes, Lou's standing over there. He couldn't even turn and take. He was so afraid to talk to the other team. Oh, but the best is, I had to tell you this. So they're in the playoffs, and Patrick Elias is like, calls Louis over. He's one of the equipment guys. He's like, dude, I'm starving. Can you run to the cafeteria or whatever they call it, where the media meal is, and grab me like, you know, a ham sandwich or something, just bread and some meat. So, first of all, the trainers aren't allowed to go in there and eat at this time. I don't know if they are now. So, Louis goes to the medical guy who is kind of in charge of all the trainers. He's like, Billy, Patty wants me to go get him a set. He goes, go ahead. So he's like, and they always talked in code. They would never say Lou's name. They always do the double L with their hands, because they're like, it's like Mr. Deeds, the the butler. Like, they turn around and he's there. Like, you're underestimating my sneakiness. So they're fucking. He's like, I'm like, Jesus, something's gonna happen. So he goes in, he grabs 2 rolls, they throw some ham on it. He's like, I'm walking out. I run chest to chest, Lou Lamoriello, and he goes, I put my head down and I keep walking. He's like, 2 minutes later, I get called into the medical room, and Lou's standing there and he's talking to the medical. This is before a playoff game. Like, are you really worried like about that? Like, and like, I respect Lou Lamoriello, like you said. Like, this guy's he knows what he's doing. But these are the little things he says to him. This is what killed me. He's standing there and he goes, Lou, I told Louis he could go grab a couple rolls for Patrick. He asked for some food because he's hungry. He goes, so he went and grabbed him a couple rolls. He goes, Billy, there was meat on that plate. Oh, no. Yeah, there was fucking meat, because he said it was just rolls. He goes, Billy, there was meat on that plate. And he's like, holy fuck, man. But I was just like, I laughed so hard when I heard that story. I'm like, oh man, it's crazy. That's why I asked you like how it was. I guess you learn as you go, right?
Sorry for the quick break. Just a quick shout out to our sponsor, DLI Commercial, a premier commercial construction and building maintenance company offering support at every phase. thank you for your support. Check them out at DLI Commercial for all your construction needs. Back to the show.
So Willie told me this story. When I got to Jersey, so my last year of college, it's 99, 2000. Willie Mitchell, I think, was a rookie up and down. And so he's a black ace. So he's doing what I ended up doing a year later. So him and the guys, they're staying at the Turtlebrook Inn. They're a black ace. The New Jersey Devils go right to the final. I think they played, maybe it was Dallas in the final or something like that. Anyways, they win the Stanley Cup. New Jersey wins. These poor black aces have been sitting in the Turtlebrook Inn for 2.5 months, getting skated every goddamn day, treated like, anyways, they put the work in. They're done. They win the Stanley Cup. Lou has them all into the office. Season's over. So they come in, and Lou's like, hey, guys, hey, congratulations. And meanwhile, these guys haven't been anywhere fucking close to the team. But he's like, hey, guys, congratulations. You guys worked really hard. I really appreciate it. I got a gift for you guys. So he hands them each a bag. Inside the bag, the fucking Devils just won the 2000 Stanley Cup. Hands each one of them a bag. They open it up, look in there. Lou's gift as a thank you was an Eastern Conference Champions T-shirt for each one of them. Not even a Stanley Cup. Eastern Conference Champions. I'm like, when they told me this, I'm like, come on. We didn't even give you a Stanley Cup T-shirt? Nope. Eastern Conference Champions. Oh man!
You gotta save those. You gotta save those ones because you're gonna sell those ones.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Willie told it to me. It was right away when I got there, and I'm like, "Come on!" And for whatever reason, that stuck with me. I thought that was the fucking funny. You just sat there and got bag skated every day for 2.5 months. You
For a T-shirt.
Here's your fucking Eastern Conference Champions T-shirt.
Did they let you guys come to the games when you were the Black Aces at home? Did you get to go to the games?
We got to go to the games. Yep, we were sitting up. We had like a little section up with the press, so we were allowed to come to the games. Yeah, and that was it. But then we didn't go on the road, but we still got skated all the time. I mean, it was. Like I said, when I hear stories now about like Black Aces, it's like, yeah, we went golfing and a couple of us were skating with the team, and I'm like, we're going on the road, we're playing golf on the road. This is the greatest time ever. I'm like, fuck me, is that different from my experience with Black Aces? That's for sure. There was no fucking golfing, I'll tell you that.
Oh my God. Well, so you end up in Calgary. You get dealt kind of near the deadline, right? And that went really well for you. That was a great run there.
Yeah. Calgary, to this day, every time I see him, so the general manager back then was Craig Button, who's now on TV up here in Canada, and he lives in Calgary. Every time I see, he's getting sick of it now. It's been fucking 20 years, but every time I see Craig, I make a point. I'm like, hey, Craig, I just want to thank you again for trading for me. He's like, Mike, it's been 20 fucking years. You're welcome. Again, you're welcome. I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure you know. Thank you. So I was in, it was my first run-in with my boy Babcock when he was in Anaheim. I got traded from New Jersey to Anaheim, and then Babs wanted nothing to do with me, so I was in Cincinnati. And the reason why I thank Craig is, like, things were not looking good for me, like, at all. It was a fucking disaster with Mike Babcock. And I was sitting in Cincinnati playing for the Mighty Ducks, and I'm like, I am fucked in this organization. Like, this could be the fucking end of the road here if I don't find a way out of here. And I remember we were on a bus trip. We were doing like Milwaukee, Chicago, and maybe Cleveland or something like that. And it was the trade deadline. And so we're on the bus. I think we were going through Chicago or something like that. So I call my agent and I'm like, hey, tell me, like, is anything going on? He's like, no. He goes, I don't think you're going anywhere. I'm like, fuck. Hang up the phone. 2 minutes later, Nick Smith, the guy I played with, he's sitting in front of me, turns around, he's like, hey, congratulations, Mike. I go, well, congratulations. I'm like, for what? He's like, you just got traded. I go, what the fuck? I just got off the phone with my agent. He's like, yeah, man, you just got traded. I think you're going to Calgary. So they dropped me off at the airport. Literally, I've got my Mighty Ducks tracksuit. I've got one suit that's rammed in my bag. Like, I'm planning on being out of Cincinnati for like 4 days. So I end up getting on the plane, fly to meet the St. John Flames. I did like a 7-game road trip with them. and then up to Calgary. And yeah, it was finished the year in Calgary. I'm not even really sure why they called me up. That was in 02-03. They weren't very good. So, but played the last 6 games in Calgary and then went from there. But yeah, like Calgary was definitely, that was a big, I mean, I had to, I was far from perfect too. And I had to clean up some things in my own personal life and start taking things a little bit more seriously for sure. But that was kind of the start of me kind of getting my shit together and going from there for sure. And then, yeah, the 04 run, it was awesome in Calgary. Like, it was crazy. I mean, I was in the minors for the first half of the year, got called up. I got hit from behind. Petrovicki, I blew my shoulder out, so I was out for like 6 weeks or something like that, and then came back and played the last few games. And, it had been the first time since Calgary had made the playoffs in maybe since 96 or 97. So it'd been 7 or 8 years. Everybody in Calgary was just they were just excited that we made the playoffs. And then, then we're playing Vancouver. So we're playing, Naslund and Morrison and Bertuzzi. They were supposed to be good. They were like the 2 or 3 seed, whatever it was. And yeah, the expectations were 0 here, but we had that was by far for me. And I ended up playing for a shitload of teams because I got traded or moved all the time. That was by far the toughest team I had ever played for. We had, Chris Simon, who was one of the scariest fucking guys ever, in my opinion.
The size of the mitts on him, eh, Commie?
Oh my God. The first time I met him, I'm like, hey, Chris. I'm like, he's, deep voice. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I ended up hanging out with Chris because he was in the hotel just like I was. I was in the hotel for 7 months. And so, Chris and I ended up hanging out all the time. And I'll never forget, after one of the first, playoff games, my parents lived in Edmonton at the time, and they'd come down for the home games. So I'd have them underneath after, and hey, how you guys, what's going on? And so the one time I had my parents down, and my dad's not a small guy. He's 6'3", whatever. And Chris was walking by. So I'm like, hey, Chris, you mind meeting my parents? He's like, yeah, of course. So he's like, hey, how you doing, Mr. Commodore, this and that? And my dad, after he walked away, he's like, Jesus Christ, that guy's got fucking huge hands on him. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm real glad he's playing for my team.
Yeah, right.
Fucking scary. Oh my God, he was a killer. And Olawan, we just had a really tough team. We played hard. We had Kiprasov was obviously unbelievable goalie. We had a great goaltending, and we had one superstar in Jerome McGinley. And we had other good players too, but we were a hard team to play against. It was not very much fun playing against that team because we played hard and we were fucking tough. We could play any way you wanted to. So that was fun. I just went to the game last night, the Oilers Flames, and it's literally there won't be whenever I go to games. 10 minutes doesn't go by where somebody doesn't come up and be like, man, 2004. God, that was great. I'm like, yeah, thank you. They're like, oh, you were great in 2004, this and that. I'm like, yeah, I really didn't play a whole lot, to be brutally honest. That run was so memorable where most of the fans here think that I played for Calgary for 5 years.
I said that. I felt like you played there so much longer than you did.
18 games.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll bring it up.
Legendary 18 games.
Those are the greatest
you made an impact
of my life. They're like, what? 18 games? I'm like, well, I played 18 regular season games here, and then I played 20 in the playoffs. They're like, come on. I'm like, I swear to God, look it up. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, people don't forget, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a different animal too in the playoffs in Canada. It gets hype here. Obviously we're gonna get to Carolina where you were in the Stanley Cup, and I'm from Greensboro, which is about an hour from Raleigh. And they tailgate, and they get to the playoffs. There's tailgates. It's like a football game's going on. But Calgary, in the playoffs or in any Canadian city, it's ramped up even more, which I think's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Even just the little things. I remember I had a dealership gave me a little Honda Accord or something to drive around because I didn't really live here when this was going on. I said, I was in the hotel for 7 months, and I would drive by, Vancouver was like, hey, and we beat Vancouver. Everybody's like, wow, that's amazing. Then next up is Detroit, and everybody's like, well, Detroit had won the President's Cup, loaded with Hall of Famers. Everybody's like, oh, that was fun. The party's over now. You guys are playing Detroit. Somehow we managed to beat, Mika Kiprasov. We beat Detroit, and then that was kind of when everything went from like, to like, holy fuck, these guys actually, I mean, if you can beat Detroit, you can beat anybody. So then it really got ramped up. So I remember like, whenever I would go, drive to the games or whatever, get there a couple hours early, and I always drive by this one bar that was kind of right down the street from the Saddle Dome. And I'd leave early so I could do a couple laps around the block and go by a few times, because there'd be a bunch of women and people outside just getting after it, and they'd all be screaming my name. I'm like, I'm the man. Just block, and then I go to the game.
Putting the sirens on.
It was so much fun. It was great. It was a really good time for sure.
That's
that was
awesome.
the introduction to the red afro and the big red beard too in Calgary.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was for sure. Yeah, like that started when I was in North Dakota. Long story short, so like my second year there, me and Jeff Ulmer, he's now an assistant coach for the Abbotsford Canucks. He was a couple years in front of me, and we would get report cards in college where it'd be like, so after a weekend series, you either got a 1, a 2, or a 3. I think if you were a 1, you had a good weekend. A 2, you were okay. 3, you were dog shit. And so we're like, hey, let's just grow our hair out until we get 3s. I'm like, okay, yeah, so let's do it. So I grew my hair out or whatever, and we didn't end up getting a 3 until too late in the year, where it was like, well, fuck, I'm not cutting my hair now. I've come this far. Fuck it. We'll just keep it going. But I could tell like it was kind of popular with like when I was in school. So every year I would, except when I was with Lou. Lou wouldn't have any of that. I had to cut my hair.
I was going to say, yeah.
Oh, Lou was, first time I got called up, I had a little bit longer hair, like not super long. It was December, I think, right before Christmas. And I got called up from Albany, or maybe it was in November. It doesn't matter. But my hair was a little bit longer. And so Lou has me in the office. And he's like, hey, Mike, congratulations. I'm like, thanks, Lou. I really appreciate it. I was playing, I think, the next night or something like that. He's like, you're in the lineup, but he's like, there's only one way you're getting in that lineup. I'm like, what's that? He goes, you're going to the barber right now and you're cutting your hair. I'm like, okay, sounds good, Lou. And so straight to the barber, shaved my head, and I was in the lineup the next night. He had want nothing to do with that. But yeah, the long hair here in Calgary kind of took off, and Carolina too. It was just kind of a fun.
Yeah.
It ended up, the only time people paid attention was when we ended up going to the finals. I was fortunate enough to be part of 2 of those teams. And it worked out. Like here, ended up cutting my hair at the end of the playoffs. Actually, at the high school that I grew up just outside of Edmonton, which is 3 hours north of here. And so I, did a charity cut at the high school that I went to school at or whatever, and donated the money. Gillette, like the Mach 3 had just come out, so they sponsored it. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it actually. So it ended up working out all the way around for sure.
Amazing. Well, you mentioned Carolina, and Nasty brought it up. I mean, you transitioned you got traded to Carolina from Calgary, and then obviously have a nice run there, some success, Stanley Cup, the whole bit. I mean, talk about your time there. Seemed pretty productive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was definitely those were my glory years for sure. Ended up getting traded there. So after we went to the finals in 2004, my contract was up, and I had signed a 2-year one-way contract. So I was pumped. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I've made it. Now I got to, but I've made it. So I'm like, I'm done with the American League. I'm getting paid a little bit of money. I forget what league minimum was back then, like $550, maybe $600, something like that. And I'm like, I'm excited and coming here for a tour. I was living in Calgary and training and shit here. We go do our golf tournament here for the Flames before it starts. I'll never forget. I think that lockout. I'm like, what the fuck is a lockout? I'm like, no hockey. I'm like, we got to play hockey. So I'm at this tournament. I'm playing golf with these guys. We tee off. They're like, hey, Mike, you want a drink? You guys aren't starting tomorrow anyway. Training camp testing's the next day. I'm like, no. I go, guys, I appreciate it, but I'm like, no drinks for me. I'm like, well, I got camp tomorrow. They're like, really? I'm like, well, I think so. Anyways, on the 3rd hole, there was like a Bacardi tent. Bacardi had like a stand, and they were handing out drinks. So we pull up. Half the fucking team is there, just crushing rum. I remember Rhett Warner, who's a great dude, funnier than hell, who's a good player, and Rhett's like, get a drink in you. We don't have camp tomorrow. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, we're not playing. But anyways, that was the funnest golf tournament. And then I got shit-faced. It was great. But lockout. So I'm like, I finally think I've made it. I'm excited. You know, we just went to the finals. You know, teams should be pretty good. Hopefully again, lockout, back to the minors. I'm like, fuck, I can't stay out here.
Yeah.
But it ended up, looking back, it was the greatest thing that happened in my career. So I ended up going down, and Carolina and Calgary split a farm team in Lowell that year. And I went down and I got to play a ton. I mean, I was playing 20, 25 minutes a night, and I had a good year for myself. And that's how I ended up getting traded to Carolina. When I did get traded to Carolina, I got traded on the draft day, I think. You know, I was like, oh, fuck. At first, I was a little bit disappointed because I'm like, you know, Carolina was terrible in 2004. You know, Calgary was pretty good. But then I sat there and looked at it. I'm like, well, I'm not going to really play in Calgary anyways. We got like 8 or 9 guys on one-way contracts. Dion Phaneuf was coming up. He's obviously going to play. So I'm right. And I remember, and so I wasn't really, I mean, I would have been up and down again for sure. And Carolina was supposed to finish like, you know, it's preseason. I think we were picked to finish like 28th out of 30 teams or whatever. We were supposed to be terrible. And so I'm like, oh man, and I didn't know much about him or whatever, but like I said, we just had a really good team. I think the main reason I think why we had so much success is I think we were Jim Rutherford, the general manager. I think he was like, I mean, obviously a lot of luck went into it too, but I think we were probably the quickest team to adjust to the new rules. I would say that was probably why we were, you know, there was no more hooking and holding. There was a little bit more emphasis on, you know, skating and, you know, scoring some goals. And, you know, I mean, I wasn't scoring any goals, but, you know, we had a forward group where, I mean, we had 20, 30 goal scorers on the third line. And it was just, I mean, I think maybe that year, I think we lost 3 games in a row, like maybe one time. And I think that was towards the end of the year. But yeah, we had a good team, could score goals, kind of a no-name defense would be probably pretty fair to say. And then Cam Ward, it was kind of his coming out party. He lit it up. There with the contract. Cam Ward was amazing. Yeah. I mean, people forget about Martin Gerber. Like, Cam Ward wasn't our starting goalie like the entire year. He was the backup. He played a decent amount, but I mean, Martin Gerber had like 35 or 40 wins or something like that.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Martin Gerber. Yeah, and then he ended up getting sick in the first round. We went down 2-0 to Montreal. We lost the first 2 games in Carolina.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, we were, and it was like, holy fuck. I'm like, come on, we just had a great year. I don't want to go on like this. And Laviolette made the switch to Cam, and Martin ended up playing a game or 2, like coming in, maybe one against Buffalo and maybe another one somewhere. But we were a good team for sure.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It was fun to watch. I was pulling hard for you guys because of Roddy Brendamore had been here, and you know he got traded from Philly, and everyone loved Roddy. He was so good to me as a player. But quickly going back to that lockout year, Riley's on the Phantoms that year. We ended up winning the Cup that year with the Phantoms. But I was looking at I was looking at the roster, man. Dude, like all the teams were good. It was probably the best league, you know, in the world at this point. I mean, like even your team, you had Cam Ward, you had Eric Stahl, Chuck Kobasu, Colin Forbes, Chad LaRose. Yeah, Gio, Mike Giordano was on that team. Bruno St. Jacques, I named those. Really? He barely played, eh? Gio?
Gio tells kind of a funny story when he was undrafted and Calgary signed him. And so Gio was in the minors, and I remember like it was yesterday. He was a little chunky when he first came out of junior, and he was a scratch. And I remember like in practice, I was like, man, I'm like watching him, and I'm like, man, the guy's got pretty good hands, and like he had a little grit to him, and I'm like he could get her. I'm like, fuck, I think this guy's like pretty decent. And he ended up getting his break to play, so we took the bus from Lowell to Hartford. And I had I have my feet are a little bit like I needed a little bit different like insole in my skate for me to play or whatever. And so we get to Hartford, and the equipment manager had forgotten like my insoles were still in Lowell. I didn't make the trip. So I'm like, oh fuck, I don't have any insoles. And the Tom Rowe, the head coach, he's like, fuck it. You know what? Take the night off. You're gonna play tons. Take the night off. We'll get Gio in here. I'm like, okay. So that was Gio, as he tells us when he has a couple cocktails when he's back in town. And if I'm in the room, he tells the story where his like kind of big break to start playing the American League was because I didn't have my fucking insole, and he just went from there. But you're right. Like I remember the Phantoms winning. You guys beat Providence in the conference finals, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Who'd you guys play in the finals again? I remember you guys.
Chicago.
We lost to Providence. Chicago, that's right. But yeah, to touch on the American League that year, I mean, I'd say every team other than, I mean, Springfield was a little weak, I would say, but other than that, I would say like every team, like the top 3-4 defensemen and top 3 lines, I mean, were by and large, they were NHL players. I mean, it was a great league. That year was awesome. Really good.
That was how did you
did you guys sign? Was it Carter and Richards came out of junior that year?
They came in, yeah. Right. Yep, that's right.
Not bad additions.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
These guys are all right.
They were pretty good. How did you like Lavi playing under Lavi, Peter Laviolette?
I loved him. I loved him. I think earlier in his career, like I have talked to some guys that like didn't like him at all, like from before. And I was like, really? I'm like, so I think Lavi, like, I think when he got, and now, you know, now that I've been out of it for a while and talking to guys like Rod and stuff, I think when Lavi got to Carolina, I think it was a little bit of he was dealing with a very veteran team, and I think he learned a shitload. I love Lavi. Lavi was great to me. You know, he was like, I was kind of like, when I was first there for the first half of the year, like, you know, I was playing for sure, but not a ton. And then Lavi was like the first kind of NHL coach where, I mean, Brett Hedican had a huge hand in this too. We were like probably, I don't know, the playoffs were probably like a month away, and I was playing, but kind of not, and a little bit in and out, if you want to call it that, or not playing many minutes. And I thank Brett Hedican to this day too. Brett, it was kind of me and Oleg Tverdovsky. And Oleg had a great career, don't get me wrong. And we were we would dress 7D, and Brett Hedican went in and talked to Lavi and said, hey, look, I want to play with Mike. No more of this 7D. Like, I want to play with Mike. And then from that point forward, I always played with Brett, and we ended up doing well together. But yeah, Lavi's awesome. Great dude. Like, I just saw him. Well, it's been a little bit now, but he'll come in every once in a while. Kind of a funny story. He was in here a couple of years ago. And so, you know, every once in a while, I'm not far from the Saddle Dome here. So, you know, if there's a team in town and I know a couple of the guys, like, I'll go watch like pregame skates or whatever. And so I went in, I think this might have been, I think I'm dating myself a little bit. He might have been with Nashville. So this is probably a few years ago now. But I'm, you know, the rink's empty. I go in there for pregame skate, and I'm just sitting at the top of the lower bowl. I'm just watching pregame skate. It's just me. There's nobody else there. And he's fucking staring at me from the ice. Comes and stands behind the net. I'm sitting at one end, and he's looking at me. He's right on the glass behind the net, staring at me. And so I like wave at him, and he's pissed off. I'm like, fuck, he doesn't know it's me. I think he thinks I'm like working for the Flames, like scouting his practice or some shit.
Yeah, right.
So I stay up there. I'm like, well, fuck him. I'm going to stay up here. I'm going to make him sweat it out a little bit. And he is pissed off. I can see him fuming, skating around. He's pointing up at me. I'm dying laughing. And then I went underneath. I'm like, hey, Lavi, I'm going to tell the Flames everything you guys are practicing. And then he laughed. We had a good time or whatever. But yeah, Lavi's a good guy. Good dude.
He didn't send Cato up there to get you.
Cato was fucking staying on the ice.
Cato. Yeah. He's always yelling, Cato. Yeah, I had a good time with Lavi here when he was coaching us, and he coached Riley, obviously. We had that run to the finals, but yeah, that's awesome. So we got to talk a little bit about Columbus. I heard you on a podcast a while back. Maybe a year or two ago, but you were talking about Scott Arneal. Man, a couple of stories you told. What a dick! I don't even know him, but like, wow! Like I heard, yeah, man. I couldn't believe a couple of things you had said, like you guys were taking money out of his pocket or something, or off his family's table, and man, that can't be fun to go in and try to play for a guy saying shit like that. Yeah.
No. So like when I got to Columbus, we had Hitch, and I loved Hitch. Like, you know, Ken, he's a little different for sure. But I loved Hitch, and what I loved about Hitch was like he would fucking rip on you and give it to you and give it to you. But the moment you fucking snapped, and you could say whatever you wanted to Ken, and he never took anything personal. It was like you fat motherfucker, and he was no big deal. It wasn't a big deal. I loved Hitch. Hitch ended up getting canned, and Arneal's coming in, and I'd never met Scott Arneal, but one of his assistant coaches, Brad Berry, is a North Dakota guy. So I was like,
I know Bubba.
Yeah,
I know Bubba.
So I'm like, oh, this could be a good thing. I'm going into my 3rd year on a 5-year deal. I'm like, okay, this could be a good thing. I was like, all right. Like, I was excited at first. And I will never forget, we go through training camp, and now, the last cuts are made. And so all the guys, everybody's going to go out for a beer just north of the arena there. And I was sitting down, and I'm watching, and Scott Arneal walks in. Like, literally the whole team, it's like kind of a, hey, let's have a good year, have a beer, and here we go, or whatever. And I remember watching Scott Arneal walk into the fucking bar. This is at like 3 p.m. There's a few people in there or whatever. And I remember him, he walked in, and he like puffs his chest out, and he's walking around with his arms out. And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, this could be a good sign. This might be a bad sign here. What the fuck is this guy? Like, this guy thinks he's the man. And anyways, it took me forever to figure it out. He fucked me from the word go. But it ended up being like, when he got to the NHL and got a head coaching, like Scott Arneal had a great career. He played like 700 or 800 games in the minors. He played like 700 games in the NHL. Like, he had a very good career. There's no doubt about it. But in his mind, he didn't get paid enough for what he did. So then when
that's your fault. That's your fault.
My fault. So he comes into Columbus. Well, I was the highest paid defenseman in the organization at the time. I'm single, so I got no kids, and I'm making almost $4 million a year. He wanted nothing to do. Like, he was fucking me from the word go. And yeah, he'd come in and like, we'd lose a game, or maybe be like you just said, like, you're taking money away from my kids or food off my table. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyways, I had a couple of one meeting with him in particular where like I knew I was done. Like I was fucking, it was over for me in Columbus. And it was the only time like, and I got along with like 99% of my coaches. Like, it was Scott Arneal and Mike Babcock was basically the only two I did. And everybody else I loved. And I remember going in there and having a meeting with Scott. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck this guy. And I had never gone, I called him a chicken shit. I mean, I was right in his fucking grill telling him to go fuck himself. And then I was in Springfield, and then my career was over.
Well, not quite. One of our good buddies, obviously Jake Voracek. I guess you guys were roommates. You got to have something on Jake for us quickly. I mean, you probably got more than one thing.
Jake was the best when he first came. So his first year in Columbus was my first year in Columbus, and Tyler Wright, who was like a scout for player development or whatever for Columbus. He's like, hey, we're putting you with Jake. Like, hey, make sure he doesn't eat too many M&Ms. I'm like, what? He goes, make sure he doesn't eat too many M&Ms. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll try and keep an eye on what this fucking guy eats. Like, sure. And I remember, Jake was I'll tell you what, Jake Voracek, greatest dude, great player. He was so fucking skilled and the best fucking guy. He was a young kid, but he was like an old school guy. And that motherfucker would vacuum fucking M&Ms. We'd get on the road and, they have the little mini bar. I mean, those M&Ms, we would barely get in the room and they were fucking gone. I'm like, Jake, I'm supposed to tell you, would you stop eating all the fucking M&Ms for Christ's sake? Anyway, he was the best dude, man. He was awesome. He had a hell of a career, that guy.
Yeah. Hopefully he can recover here. He's a little scary there with a concussion, but I talked to him this morning. He asked me specifically to ask you about Nasher's retirement jersey party. I don't know what that means, but he told me to mention it. I don't know if you have anything to say.
Yeah. So I hadn't been in Columbus. Fuck, that was basically a year ago. So I hadn't been in Columbus since Scott Arneal kicked my ass out of town. And I love Columbus. Like, people, I think Columbus gets a little, in my opinion, gets a little bit of a rod. I loved playing there. I thought the city was good. It was the only place where I like actually owned a place that I ever played. I had a great setup there. Like from my bedroom to my stall was a 15-minute walk. You know, the bars were all there. Anyways, I loved it there. But I hadn't been back since Arneal kicked me out of town. You know, I was a little bit bitter or whatever. And then, you know, and it's Columbus, Ohio, right? I'm out west. I mean, it's not the easiest place to get to. But naturally, they're retiring is Jersey. So I'm like, oh, shit. And I love Rick. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go. So I message the Blue Jackets. They're like, yeah, we'd love to have you. I'm like, all right. So I get there, and I will say I did get a little too excited for my trip to Columbus. The Jersey retirement, I don't even really remember. There was an after party, and I think I remember Jake picked me up off the ground. I mean, I was just way too excited to get back in town. It was seeing a bunch of guys I hadn't seen in a while, and I got fucking in one.
Yeah, in one.
Oh God, yeah. Jake,
funny.
was there. Jake actually kind of had to take care of me a little bit, but I think that's fine because I took care of his ass.
I was gonna say, yeah, been plenty of times.
Jesus. Sorry for
sorry for having a good time. He's also asked me to mention something about you grabbing Gretzky's helmet and wearing it in pregame skate or something.
Gretzky's helmet.
That's what he said. I don't know. He goes, ask him about. He said Anaheim, which doesn't make sense. He goes, you grabbed Gretzky's helmet. I'm like, in Anaheim? Why was Gretzky's helmet in Anaheim? But I don't know.
I'm gonna have to talk to Jake.
Maybe he was in one.
Those probably were the Arneal days. Towards the end there, I started basically checking out. So there would have been a few days I showed up to the rink. Probably not in the most professional manner, so there could have been something like that for sure.
Maybe he meant a Gretzky style helmet. Maybe that's what he meant. Who knows?
The old joke.
Yeah, that's funny.
Could have been that. Yeah, the old Jofa.
Yeah.
And well, quickly, I know you're running out of time here, and we appreciate you coming on. I just wanted to ask you real quick. You're probably so sick of talking about Babcock, but I watched the podcast you were on a while back, and I didn't understand the whole scenario of you like getting that call from your agent and, you know, saying, hey, look, do you really want me or not? That's brutal, man. I don't know if you want to touch on that real quick, but.
Yeah. Like Babs, like in a nutshell, I got traded from Jersey to Anaheim. It was Mike Babcock's first year as a head coach in the NHL. And they actually had that was the fucking worst finals ever. It ended up being in 2003. Anaheim, who Babs fucked me, and I was in their organization while I got traded at the end, was playing Jersey in the finals. I'm like, this is a no-win for me. I don't want any teams to win. But Babs, like, I had never met Mike Babcock. Wouldn't know him if he walked in the room. For whatever reason, and this happens all the time, like, it's not like it's just me, but for whatever reason, he didn't want anything to do with me. He fucking did not like me, and that was kind of the end of it. So down to Cincinnati, all that shit. He like the one thing that, like, you know, guys, you know, you got to get lucky with coaches and everything. I totally understand that. You know, the one thing that he did then that trying to fuck me, which really pissed me off, was, you know, when he sent me down, you know, I was supposed to play. Like, this was kind of a fairly big trade. It was like Peter Sikora and I. Obviously, Peter Sikora was the big piece in the trade, but, you know, like, I was supposed to play. And so when the media asked him, like, well, you know, why is Mike not here? You know, his response, which it ended up being so hard for me to shake. His response was, well, he showed up. He wasn't in shape. Didn't seem like he wanted to be here. So we sent him down. I fucking showed up early. I was in great fucking, I mean, I wasn't fucking stupid. Like, I realized that, you know, I didn't have a skill set where I could just roll into training camp and make the fucking team. Like, I had to be in good shape and ready to fucking go. And so he said that to the paper, and that ended up being a thing. Like when I got traded to Calgary, my first summer, so this was in the summer before 2004, I would, you know, the year I finished the last 6 games here, you know, year-end meetings, and the general manager, Craig's like, well, you know, we heard you don't like to work out, so we'd like you to stay here in Calgary. And I'm like, fuck, don't like to work out. That's all I fucking doing this summer. But I'm like, yeah. I'm like, fine. I'm like, I'll stay here, no problem. I'm like, God. So I like tried to put that to bed, but Anyways, I hated Babs. And then, yeah, when I got bought out by Columbus, I'm buddies. I just was hanging out with his daughters last night and their husbands, Ken Holland, who was the general manager. I go on golf trips with Ken, all this shit. So at this time, I had gone to one golf trip with Ken, and Ken and I hit it off, and I was ripping on Babs, and he was laughing, not really saying anything. But anyways, just having a good time or whatever. And so when I get bought out, I don't think I'm going to get a contract. My agent the day before, he's like, we might have to wait till August. I'm like, no, I get it. I'm like, I think I can still play. I just, one more chance. But I realized that it's like, if I'm lucky, I'm going to get one chance. And if this doesn't work out, I'm fucking done. Like, it's it. I'm not getting any more chances. And so he's like, yeah, it's probably going to be a few weeks. I'm like, yeah, sounds good. Next day is July 1st, 5 minutes into free agency. Phone rings. It's my agent. Like, what the fuck does this guy want? I just talked to him yesterday. And so I answer the phone, and he's like, hey, he's like, I got a contract offer for you. I'm like, seriously? I go, what is it? He's like, well, 1 year, $1 million. I'm like, okay, one way. He's like, yeah, one way. I go, well, who is it? He's like, Detroit. And always trust your gut. That's the one thing I learned out of this experience. I'm like, Detroit. So I'm like, I'm not going to fucking Detroit. I'm like, Babs is there. He's going to fuck me. He just wants to end my career. Now, my agent was a different agent from when I first had Babs, so he didn't know any of this shit. And so he's like, well, what do you mean? And so I tell him quickly, I'm like, man, there's only one reason fucking Babs wants me there, and that's to fucking end my career. And so he's like, wow, fuck Detroit. I'm like, just tell him, put him off. Like, just maybe somebody else will call, like, hopefully. And he's like, well, Mike, Ken said you have 15 minutes to make up your mind. So this is 5 minutes into free agency. There isn't another fucking team that's even considering calling me for at least another month. And I got 15 minutes. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, Ken said you need to make up your mind in 15 minutes or the contract's gone. I'm like, for fuck's sakes. I'm like, I'll call you back. So I call Ken. I'm like, Ken, I would love to play in Detroit. I would love to play for you. I'd love to play in Joe Louis. I go, you guys you're making the playoffs. You got to play with Nick Lidge. I'm like, I would love to play in Detroit. But I'm like, you know what I think of your fucking head coach? Does he want me on the team or not? He goes, yeah. I go, Ken, do you believe him? He's like, I do. I go, are you fucking sure? He's like, yeah. I go, give me his fucking phone number. So he gives me
to the GM. Are you fucking sure, man?
So I called Babs. I got 10 minutes left now. So I called Babs. I'm like, hey, Mike, it's Mike Commodore. Oh, hey, Commie. I'm like, I remember looking at the phone like, like, I ain't your fucking buddy, but I keep it to myself. I'm like, hey, Mike, look, I'm like, do you want me on your hockey team or not? We're 10 minutes into free agency here. I go, is it Ken that wants me and you don't? I go, I've ripped you in the paper. I go, do you want me on the hockey team or are you bringing me in to end my career? This is my last chance. I know it. I'd like to go somewhere where I get an opportunity. Are you going to give me an opportunity? Yeah, Mike. We need a right-handed shot. Nick likes playing with a right-handed defenseman. We need a little bit of a physical presence, blah, blah, blah. I go, Babs, no bullshit. This is my last opportunity, like my last chance here. Do you want me on the team? Yes. Hang up the phone. I'm like, man, this guy's going to fuck me. Call my agent back. He's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, he's going to fuck me. And he's like, well, what did he say? I'm like, well, he said that, like, Nick likes playing with a right-handed D. He's like, Mike, are you fucking kidding me? So then I started thinking about that. I'm like, man, what if I did get to play with Nick Lidstrom? All I'm going to have to do all year is get the puck and go D to Nick. I'm like, I'll have 25, 30 points. Fuck, maybe I get
yeah, for sure.
I'm back. Yeah.
I'm back.
You know what? I'm going to take this guy at his word. He's going to give me an opportunity. I didn't ask for anything special, or I'm going to take him at his word. Fuck it. So I signed the contract, and right from the fucking word go, I was fucking out. Like, he was scratching me. He wouldn't even really let me practice. He was calling guys up from the minors, so I wouldn't play. Like, it was a fucking joke. And then, speaking of Jake Voracek earlier, so that was July 1st. Jake calls me like right at the beginning of August. And he's like, Mike, what the fuck are you doing? What are you talking about, Jake? He goes, Detroit? You fucking hate Mike Babcock. I'm like, I do hate Mike Babcock, but this is what he said. He's like, fuck, I just talked to Labby. We just talked about you. He's wondering why the fuck you signed there. Like, we would have called you. I'm like, God damn it. Again. God damn it.
We could have had Commie. Fuck.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, that's brutal, man. God.
So you think he went into that season deliberately trying to fuck you? Like, this is an opportunity to stick it to you some which way and just right out of the gate.
Right, 100%. Like, it was.
Yeah. Hey, wow, it's fucking amazing.
Oh man, it was a joke. Like, I tweaked. I played some exhibition games, which was fine, and then we opened up the season. I had tweaked my knee a little bit. Like, I was out for like a week or something like that, like a little bit of a sore knee. And so I was scratched, like injured, I want to say for like the first game or two. And we lost the first game. We lose the second game. I'm ready to go. Like, I'm good to go. Scratch. And we weren't really doing that well. Like, it would have been, it's not like the team was winning. Like, I get don't change the lineup. The team's winning. Yeah. But I knew it then. And then, like, in practices and shit. So it'd be like, you know, like you do a 2-on-1 drill. So we'd have 7D. I'm the seventh guy. So, you know, we do like, usually you do 2 or 3 rotations through the D. Every single fucking time it was like 2-on-1s or 3-on-2s. So we go through once. I would get to go once. And then every single time it was like my turn to go again. It would be the last one. He'd blow the fucking drill down. I'm like, this motherfucker wants nothing to do. Yeah. For like the first 3 weeks when I was in Detroit, I was like, I wasn't a good person to be around because I could see what was happening. I'm like, man, this is it. I'm fucking done. And I was like pissed off. And then after like 3 weeks, I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. This guy isn't going to dictate how I go through life. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to make the best of this. So I ended up just like, I would show up. I would practice as much as he would let me. I would run the stairs at Joe Louis after every fucking practice or whatever, just so he can't say I'm not fucking working. I go run the fucking stairs. And then I just planned all the parties. Some of my best buddies in Detroit. In a way, it was actually fucking awesome. Really sort of. Hockey-wise, like, my first game in Detroit, so, I mean, this is a fucking joke. So we like had a home game and Ian White took like a puck to the face and he couldn't play the next night. And we were playing the next night in St. Louis and Babs didn't have enough time to call somebody up from Grand Rapids to play. So he had to play me. So we're going into St. Louis and I'm like, okay, fuck, he's got to play me. I'm in the lineup. You know, the guys are all pumped for me. They're like, all right. I'm like, yeah, fucking right. I'm like, all right, I got to do something here. Try and do something, whatever. So get in the fucking lineup. I think I played like 30 seconds the first period, maybe. Second period, I don't think I had a shift, maybe one. But that's maybe halfway through the game. So, yeah, not playing. I'm just standing there. I'm like, man, this is a fucking joke. But I'm like, whatever. So I sit there. Now it's like 2 minutes left in the game. Tie game, building's going bananas, and there's a change, and the D coach panics. Because it's kind of a scramble. It panics. I have checked out of this game an hour and a half ago. My team is killing me. I'm like, I'm not fucking playing. And he taps me. He's like, go. I'm like, I turn around. I go, you fucking serious? He's like, go. I'm like, okay. So I go to jump over the boards. I trip over my own feet, fall right on the blue line. I get up. Alex Steen is coming down with a. I'm like, oh my God, my feet are fucking killing me. I'm like, strong side post. Just keep him to the outside. So I go back to the strong side post. He whips around the back of the net. Cronwall was out there with me. Cronwall's supposed to pick him up when he goes to the other side of the net. Cronwall's got his head up his ass at this moment. He's fucking lost. I'm like, oh, fuck. So now Steen's in the corner. And so I beeline over there, and I'm like, I am going to put this guy in the upper deck. So I go to run him. He does a quick little turn. I trip over my own feet again, go head first into the fucking boards. I'm like, holy fuck. Pick myself up. I go back to the front of the net. Steen like took it to the net. Now this is like worst case, my ultimate nightmare. Takes it to like the net. Jimmy Howard saves it, but the puck comes. Now I have the fucking puck, which is the last thing I want. I'm like, holy fuck. So I go behind the net. I'm like, I'm going to take a look in the middle, and I'm looking on the boards. If there's nobody there, I'm chipping this puck off the glass, and I'm getting the fuck off the ice. So I look in the middle. There's nobody there. There's nobody on the boards. I'm like, this puck is out. Just going to go chip it out. I go to chip it out. The puck bounces. I shoot it 15 rows into the stand. Delay a game penalty. Oh, no. I like turned away from the bench just so Babs didn't see me. And I was like, I had to laugh. I'm like this. Then the next day, right back into the press box. That was it.
How many games after that one did you sit out?
Oh, fuck. That was That would have been early November, and the next game I played was against the Calgary Flames, December 23rd.
Oh,
Jesus
so that would have been, oh, yeah. We did like a trip. We went to Vancouver. We went Vancouver, Calgary, and then Christmas break. And so, like, I'm planning the parties. Like, I'm going on the road, and I'm like, oh, perfect. I'm like, catch up with this buddy. I'm going out here. Any guys want to come? You know, this is basically like a paid vacation for me. And so we go into Vancouver. We get the shit kicked out of us like 5-0. Now we're leaving right after the game. We're playing Calgary the next night, December 23rd, right before Christmas. Then I'm going to spend Christmas here. My family's here, all this shit. And so I'm on the plane. And I got a big night out, like planned out in Calgary. So I'm like this with a bottle of wine in the back of the plane. And I get a tap. Hey, Mike, it's fucking bad. I go, what do you want? He's like, you're in tomorrow. I go, no, I'm not. I go, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, you're in tomorrow. Turns around. Todd Bertuzzi taps me. He's like, hey, you're fucking in. I'm like, fuck, I better put this fucking wine down. The only reason why I ended up getting back into it, I found this out from the goalie coach the next day. The only reason why I got in was, you know, we were kind of on a skid. We just got spanked by Vancouver 5-0. We're kind of going back to Calgary where I played here a little bit. So Ken apparently had pulled Babs aside on the tarmac and told Babs, I don't give a fuck if you have to scratch Nick Lidstrom tomorrow. Mike Commodore is fucking playing in Calgary. So that was the only reason why I got back into the lineup. I had a pretty good game here. And then Babs, like, let me play for like a month, I'd say. And then it was done. And then that was it. Wow. And then off to Tampa. But,
yeah, I never heard much good about the man. I don't know him, but I do tell you this real quick. We were when Craig Berube was coaching us here with the Flyers. We had an off day. We came from somewhere, so we had a day where we weren't playing until the next day. So we had a few guys going out, and our ice time was at noon. So the guys come in. You know how you guys go through your routine. I'm sure you were. Did you really get after it before a game, warm up or practice? I think I read something where you said I wasn't really. I did a few high knees and I was ready to go.
But high knees and a couple of pot of coffee was my
pot of coffee. Yeah, Riley used to get into the coffee too. But this was a day off, so we had the schedule of practice at noon. So all the guys are there. They're getting dressed, and Detroit guys are still on the ice. Some of the guys, and so I say to one of the equipment guys, I'm like, hey, like we're supposed to go on the ice in like 10 minutes, and you guys are still out there. And Hexy's going to lose his fucking mind because Hexy was the GM and Chief was our coach. Yep. And yep. Chief's like, fucking figure out what's going on here. So I'm like, all right. So I'm talking to the boys next door with Detroit. And they're like, Babs said, sorry. That's, you know, we'll get off when we get off. And I'm like, okay. So I got to go tell Hexy and Chief, you know, not that they're going to be mad at me. Well, we want to talk to him. Get him out here. So we got in that area where the boys used to play soccer in the Joe, back behind both locker rooms. And Babs finally comes out. So our guys are kind of like, the guys that weren't skating were kind of kicking a soccer ball. And I'm like standing there, I got to see this. He comes out there and Hexy's like fuming. Because, I mean, you know, if you're a player on our team, you're sitting here waiting an extra hour to get on. It's not right.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
no.
We had that ice time signed off. So Hexy's like, what are you doing? Like, we have the ice at 12. Like, our guys have been here. And he's like, he was looking for quarters. He didn't want to look at either one of those guys in the eye. Like, he had his head down and he was talking. Well, you know, we had a practice that ran a little long. And Chief's like, that's not how it goes, man. Like, we're supposed to be on the ice 30 minutes. Dude, this guy never looked up once. And he goes, well, I mean, I'm not sure what you want me to say. Like, do you want me to say I'm sorry? And he's never looking at him. He goes, I guess I'm sorry, I guess, you know. And they're like, are you kidding me? And he's just like, and he just walks away. And they're like, was that an apology? Like, I guess I'm sorry. Like, but he never looked up at either one of them. And our guys are just like snicker because, like, what's he thinking? First of all, with Chief standing there, fucking, you know,
I would kick the shit out of him.
And Hexy was wound up, but I mean, they kept their cool, but it was kind of see him kind of like cower a little bit was kind of funny because he's so fucking
He's like the quickest way I would say to like sum him up is he's a bully, is what he is. And as soon as just like that situation right there, when you come fucking at him, he's going to back off. But he is a fucking bully and a fucking terrible human being. When I got to Detroit, I was like, put all your differences aside. Like, this is the last chance. Like, all right, we're on Team Babcock here. I sit down in the dressing room for the first time. Half the fucking team came up to me and was like, hey, man, we loved it when you carved Babs in the paper. Fuck him. I'm like, I literally just got here. I'm like, hey, I don't know what to say, because I'm like, man, I'm trying to be on Team Babcock here. Like, let's have fun and have a good year. And these guys are just fucking torching them. And I'm like, fuck, these guys hate them too. Perfect.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I knew a couple people that worked in management there that were good friends with my dad. My dad was in the league for a long time, so he was really good friends with them, and they didn't have anything really good to say.
Not a good dude.
Yeah.
Not a good dude.
It's a shame that guys got to flex like that. They can't just become a little more, confident in themselves and find a different way to deal with guys, right? It's like that whole fear-based coaching, right? It's like you got some power and you flex in, and it's just like,
it's like, I think the way he looked at it, and I'm sure he's not the only one, but it was like, I mean, he thinks everybody's coming to the rink to watch him. Right. It's like, well, I'm the head coach of the fucking Detroit Red Wings. I decide who's in the fucking lineup. This is, it's the same thing with like Mike Modano not playing 1,500 games because
what a joke.
It's like, what the fuck is
that? What are you doing?
Right. Like, imagine every other coach would have been like out of their way to like, Mike, I don't care if your fucking leg is broken. You're gonna
for one shot.
That's it. Yeah, your skates are touching the ice, and then you can go, and then you can take your shit off, and that's fine. But like, that's the story that I like tell to people, like, because it comes up around here every once in a while. And like, the shortest version is just like, hey, go fucking hockey DB or whatever. Google Mike Modano. He played 1,499 games. Bab scratched him so he wouldn't get 1,500. I mean, that's a fucking
incredible.
That's a joke.
Yeah, it's a bad guy right there.
It is, and you're talking about when he was a head coach of Detroit, which is a big deal. When he signed in Toronto, that ego went from here. Like, he's a fucking. First of all, when your head coach is the face of your franchise, in my opinion, you got issues. Like to me. But like you said, he believed it. You watch. I don't think that guy ever would miss a media scrum or whatever you call them after practice games.
He would never miss a fucking interview ever. Like, that was what he fucking loved, and like. That was half the reason why I moved to Phoenix, because he fucking signed in Toronto. I'm like, man, I can't live in Canada. I can't every day. It's going to drive me fucking crazy. I got to go to Phoenix so I can get away from this. But like, his bullshit, like, goes into the gym and then comes out and he's got a sweat on and then he's fucking growling. It's just the whole fucking act. He's so fucking self-centered. And at the end of the day, he doesn't give a fuck about anybody except himself. That's it.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
That seemed like, anyways. Well, we appreciate you, Commie. I know we've gone over an hour.
Boys. I could probably get going. Yeah, all good. Anytime, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Sorry, man. I could keep going. I could keep going with you, man. We love you, man. We appreciate your time, brother.
Anytime. No, I appreciate it. I could keep going too, but my girlfriend's looking at me. She needs to go get an oil change, so I got to help her.
A hairy eyeball.
Oh, man.
All right, boys.
All right, brother.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, take care, man.
All right, big thank you to Mike Commodore for carving out the time. Appreciate him. What a beauty.
Oh, my God. I could have kept going. I had other things I want to talk to. Maybe we get him on again.
That was extended pod, too.
Oh, my God, yes. But he is so funny. Like I told you before we got on with him, and we talked a little bit with him for a little while, I knew he was probably in one.
Oh, yeah.
And no pun intended with his hashtag N1, but he was funny. He said he went to the Calgary-Edmonton game last night, and he's like, I can't even watch the game. I got people handing me beers. If I got three hands, I'd be three-fisted. Yeah. But what a guy, man. It's just so many great stories, and some we didn't even get to.
I know. We didn't even get to, I think, three-quarters of the stuff.
Yeah.
We just kind of built.
He's such a good dude, man. Yeah. Love that guy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, so what do we got, Nast?
We got our Clear Questions presented to you by Clear Rum, clearrum.com. Check it out. The clear water.
Oh, you love the clear water.
I like the Clear Crush now, but the clear water.
Yeah,
that's my jam right now. Or just clear on the rocks.
Hydrating while you're dehydrating. Why not?
Hey, you got to do it. It does make perfect sense.
That's why you look like you're 32 years old.
I wish. I'm concerned. My daughter's going to get me aging here more than I really am.
Yeah.
But
that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a different
more
story.
clear water. Who knows?
Yeah, I might be drinking more of that now. But,
all right.
Yeah, clear questions, baller. What do you got?
We have an email from Angelo Rosina. Since it's episode 99, have either of you met Gretzky or have a story about him? And another question, who would you say is the Wayne Gretzky of Philly? Obviously not as good, but...
Ooh. Well, curveball. I've never met Wayne Gretzky. Obviously, I followed him growing up, and in my opinion, the best player to ever play. But Nast, I think you've had a couple
I've been fortunate. I met him a few times. Like one of the nicest people ever. You know, like especially for who he is. He thinks he's nothing. It's kind of funny. He makes fun of himself. But I was able to meet him a bunch of times, and then I got to work with him at the All-Star game in 2017 when our boy Wayne Train won the MVP. What a weekend. But he was our coach, and he was great. A funny story, I guess. One of the things that I can tell, it was kind of funny because Paul Coffey was on the bench with us as well, and we're first game of the tournament or whatever you want to call it, and it's 3-on-3, so you got two forwards and a D, so you only have 3D. Well, I think it was Justin Falk had a tough start his first shift, and the game just began. Like they scored right away. He comes off, and Gretz looks over. He looks over to Koff and goes, "Hey, he's done." Like he can't play. Like he's benching him, right? And you only have 3D, like so you can't do that. And I just remember laughing. He reminded me of something Chief would do or say.
Sarcastic.
And it was pretty funny too. I was standing in between Koff and Paul Coffey and Wayne Gretzky, and Chris Chelios kept FaceTiming him, and he was on the beach in LA, and he's talking, and it's kind of loud in there. I'm like, how can you? They're holding the phone right here, and they're both like trying to talk as they're coaching. Like this is during the game, and
couldn't wait.
Gretz is like trying to like pay attention, and it's kind of funny. And Gretz like looks over and he goes, "Flip over," because he was all red. Chelly was like all red on his front side. He's like, "Flip over." I'm like, Jesus Christ. It was pretty funny, but really, really nice man. Like Rick Tockett, one of our good buddies, is best buddies with him, and just always great things to say.
Classy things about Greg.
Yeah, he's a class act for sure, man.
Well, what do you got
great
there, Nast? I used to use that thing.
Speaking of this, I got this, I think about in 94, 95. This is
wow, what a
isn't that awesome?
piece of art that thing is.
He asked me, "You want me to sign your name?" And I was like, I don't know. Whatever. He goes, okay, that's fine. But it was really cool. His sticks used to come with these on them already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is like way. But now these are, the
know that.
Yeah, all his sticks came that way, and he had baby powder on them.
Wow.
But yeah, I got this. Rick Tockett was playing with the Kings, and we were standing in the change room at the Spectrum, the old Spectrum, and he was like, "Yeah, one of Gretz's sticks?" I was like, "No, it's my third year, I think, in the league." And I was like, "No, I don't." But I'm like, I don't want to ask him. He goes, "Oh, fuck that." He's like, "Gretz, could D get one of your?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, man." He goes over, grabs it off the rack, and it's like,
that's so nice.
And signed it. He was like, "There you go." And I was like, "Oh my god!" This is my favorite. Obviously, probably my favorite stick that I have.
Course,
I mean, it's unbelievable. I have
unit.
quite a collection. I've been fortunate to get a lot. I've got Mario Lemieux and some guys like that. But this is and it's that shiny stuff.
Oh yeah,
There's some weight to it though.
Yeah, I used one of those bad boys back in the day.
Yeah, so
didn't have quite the same finesse, but
well, I mean, you were right there. You got same damn
curve,
blade.
same blade, same curve,
same blade.
I was trying to mimic what Gretter was doing.
Yeah,
It just
exactly.
Didn't transpire.
No,
but
it's all right.
It happens.
But that's my that's one of my stories about Wayne. He's a great guy.
I love it.
This one's from Jersey Mike Taylor. Riley, what was it like playing in Memphis with the River Kings?
Oh. Wow, it was a serious culture shock. That was the first year I had moved away from home in Canada to play hockey in U.S. and pursue my professional hockey career. And I lived in South Haven, Mississippi. Talk about culture shock, Nast.
Oh, boy.
You're a Southern boy.
I am. Not that Southern.
And Memphis River Kings was affiliated with the St. John's Maple Leafs, Toronto Maple Leafs, a AAA team, I guess you could say. It landed up being a great situation and a great hockey season. We landed up winning the President's Cup in the Central Hockey League.
No.
you know, was fighting, you know, all these juice monkeys.
Yeah.
Tried like the hell. Try my best to get the hell out of that league. I mean,
right.
I mean, you talk about some mutants and guys that are on major amounts of steroids. But nonetheless, as far as a first-year pro, you get my feet wet, learning the fighting role. It landed up being a pretty good experience all around, but not a league I certainly wanted to stay in. But a great experience, though.
That's cool.
One more. Nikki T 1428 over on Instagram. Nasty. What was the best moment of the 2012 Penguin series? And did anything crazy happen behind the scenes?
Ooh, the best. Gosh, there was a lot of cool things because we won.
Was that the series where
Hartsey? It was all that.
Was it, but with G. With G crushing Crosby, one of the first shifts there.
That was the game. That was Game 6 when we finished them off. Yeah, I would have to say like that was a huge point. I mean, like, you know, and remember Lavi saying, "Well, when the best player in the world comes to you, and this, you know, we're playing Sidney Crosby," but he said that like G told him I want the first shift, and he did. He lit Sid up. He clean hit.
Yeah,
you know, and then Sid's a strong guy, pretty tough to knock that fucker over.
I got the wide base.
I mean, yeah, and then you know, I think there was a whistle, and then right after that, G comes in, walks in, and just buries one.
Yeah.
Posting in. That was, you almost were like, we're gonna win it, and he, you know, when he looks at the crowd and says, "LFG, let's fucking go." That. I think everybody in the building was losing it. It was it was a great series. You know, you remember. We came back in the first 2 games in Pitt. One, Jake scored. Jake Voracek scored in overtime. That was a huge moment. It was awesome. Coots and G both having a hat trick.
That's right.
And I don't know if that was Game 2, I think.
That's right.
But that hit on Sid, and I love Sid, but I mean, it's the Penguins, and it's, you know, he would have done the same thing.
The tone. Yeah, exactly.
He would have done the same thing, right? And it just set the tone. The building was rocking, the orange out, and then G scores. You're just like, I think we're going to be okay today.
Yeah.
So thinking about anything behind the scenes from that, I can't really remember. I think if there was anything crazy, I would remember, because I usually remember quite a bit of stuff, but I don't really remember anything nuts happening behind the scenes. I was good buddies with all the equipment guys in Pittsburgh. You know, there were times in my career, like earlier, I'll never forget in the American League, where I had a equipment manager from the other team, and this was in the finals.
Yeah.
When I was with the Phantoms, took 2 pieces off of my skate machine, and I couldn't use it.
No way.
Yep.
Wow.
And the kid that worked there
gutless.
The kid that worked there with him. Told me.
Wow.
I said, hey, like I went to lunch and I just came back and 2 pieces I need for my machine are gone. And he was like,
it's a major violation.
The kid told me, I thought it was pretty ballsy of him. And I said, listen, just go take it off your travel machine and we'll worry about it later. And the guy hid for me the next 2 games. That was against St. John's.
Ballsy,
but get back to the question. I apologize. I had nothing crazy that I can remember behind the scenes, really. It was just a great series to win because it was Pittsburgh, you know.
Of course. And that's a wrap. Clear questions. 99.
Crazy. So pumped. Thanks to everyone that has been following us and everything like that, all the support we get. We really do appreciate it. 99, man, coming up on 100.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, looking forward to that. Special guest next week.
Yes.
Episode of Hundo. Check us out. Subscribe. Like our stuff on social media. Appreciate Baller and Debo for putting together all of our content and posts and everything. So until then, be sure to tune in next week. You guys won't want to miss this one. Is a special episode. 100. Great job, Nast.
Huge party.
In the studio.
In the studio.
Be sure to tune in.
Oh, you're in charge.
Oh, yeah. Get the party hats.
Yeah.
Till next week, stay safe, knuckleheads.
See you guys.